Hey guys, so in the story of the Bacchae, one thing that really surprised me at the very beginning was Dionysus' portrayal. I normally picture him more of like a party animal, more of like in the fraternity scene kind of guy. But in this case, he was very vengeful, very wrathful, something that I normally reserve for like Zeus, Hades, like the other big guys. But he was very wrathful in the story. As for the values of this play, I think there's two obvious ones: vanity and humility. Vanity is obviously just prayed by Prometheus. He says things like on page 24, "Seize him, he mocks me, and he mocks Thebes," uh, meaning that if you mock me, you're mocking my entire town, which doesn't really equate. And then he also says on page 50, he's the only true man in this whole city. Very vain. And then the humility is portrayed by the old man Comitius and then the blind prophet. Uh, they say things like one old man laying there like a child, knowing that they can still learn at this age. And then Comitius reportedly says, "I'm immortal. I would never scorn a god." Comitius was like the top guy. He was in Prometheus's place. He abdicated his throne to him, and he won't scorn a god. He knows his place in the world. He knows that he's not the top of the top. Something I had to look up was Bacchus. So there was a ton of different names for Dionysus in the story, but Bacchus is Dionysus' Roman counterpart, so that was a name. And I thought that was the title of the book until obviously we look back as Bacchae, which is the name of the female group of followers, which I thought was an interesting choice. As for the question of diversity, the women out in the forest are portrayed two very different ways, one by Dionysus and one by Prometheus. Prometheus sees them as crazed animals, while Dionysus sees them more as like they're natural but not crazed. They are possessed by the will of wanting to be all natural but not crazy. The end result is Prometheus is kind of proved right by being ripped up by the ladies. So that kind of depicts them as more of a wild animal, at least in my perspective. So the text is saying, like, women should be, I feel bad for kind of saying this, but domesticated and put in the home so they don't become wild animals. At least that's what I think the text is saying. As for Elvis being on the cover, I think it was a very good choice. My book doesn't have Elvis on the cover, but there's two ways I can see this going. Either Elvis is supposed to be Dionysus, huge a god, and has a huge band of followers. But I think the more interesting way to look at it is Elvis is Prometheus. He thought he was a god. He thought he was the top of the food pyramid, but then something above him put him back in his place. In Prometheus' case, he got ripped up, and then in Elvis' case, he got put in a photo line for committing some sort of crime, which is an very interesting real world dynamic. And as for my two questions I have about the text, is at the end of the book, Dionysus is very vengeful to people that praised him at the beginning. So I was wondering about that, why, and also why did they name it Bacchae and not Bacchus? Why did they name it after female followers and not the god himself?